Well, the tour continues. So Sunday you got our dining room and today you get the garden. It's almost like we have a whole house. So, actual topic, transitioning in your 30s. I am 34. As a transmasculine person with a kind of meandering life experience, I socially transitioned at 29, went on to sketchy testosterone at 30 and got the legit stuff from the NHS at 33. These days, trans acceptance and trans visibility is so much better than it was even a decade ago, no matter a lifetime ago. I follow quite a lot of trans YouTubers and it is so nice to see 20-somethings, teens, kids finding out, recognising even earlier that they want to cast off the arbitrary M or F distinction that came with their birth certificate. Being trans remains a rough ride, but living with shame and dysphoria for multiple decades before finally coming out is a significantly rougher one. We all get a finite number of years on this earth, and I maintain that if this is somebody's truth, the earlier that they recognise that and are able to live as their authentic self, the happier the sum total of their existence will probably be. As I mentioned in my very first video on this channel, I actually first clocked that something was off in sort of my late teens. I then didn't feel trans enough to actually follow through on it, and ended up living as female for another decade or so. In terms of what transitioning a bit later has meant to me, I think in physical terms it's probably not caused a huge difference. In terms of like gender relevant changes between 18-year-old me and 30-year-old me, there's really nothing dramatic there. I mean, I got fat, but that's kind of gender universal. Obviously the trans feminine people have, again, a slightly rougher ride on this one, given that getting older brings the twin fears of increased body hair and male pattern baldness. You have my sympathies, but for me I don't think the physical aspect was super relevant. The only thing that I do wonder about is that I do notice that the changes that I have experienced with testosterone have been much more gradual, much slower than the videos and transition timelines that I've seen in teenage and 20-something trans guys. However, I'm not sure how much of this is age-related and how much of it is the fact that I was on sketchy internet purchase testosterone for 3 years. It is quite possible that it just wasn't as good as the stuff that I'm now on, because I have found that changes have been accelerating over the course of the last year. The downside of increased trans visibility has been a severely increased burden on NHS gender transition services. I first went on a waiting list for top surgery, or at least went on a waiting list for gender services in general, in January 2015. By the time I actually get my top surgery, which is looking like spring next year, it will have been over 4 years. If I'd have actually transitioned 22 years earlier, it would have been a fraction of that. However, this is where we kind of get into the positives. The self-same thing, which has caused an increase in wait times, is what has made, frankly, transitioning even possible for me. My support network these days is amazing. There is so much online support, and if, like me, you live in a large city, there will also be in-person support groups who will be able to talk through what you're going through and give you a supportive environment. I look back on the person that I was in my early 20s and in my teens, and I was a self-loathing train wreck of a person. I don't know how much of that would have been fixed by transitioning, but I don't want to kind of romanticize this part of my journey as this being the one thing that turned my life around. There was positive change, like the graph was broadly upwards at the point where I came out. Would transition have made an otherwise miserable 20-something Morgan happier? Yeah, it would. Would it have made me actually happy? Probably not. And more importantly, this is a journey that requires a really robust sense of self. You are going to get challenged and queried and just harassed on this subject for so long, and you need to really know yourself so that that pressure doesn't just wreck you. So overall, I think I've had a much more positive experience of transition by transitioning later when I knew more about myself. Vital point, I am absolutely not trying to convince anybody in their teens and 20s not to transition, or saying that, oh, you just don't know yourself yet, you should wait. If this feels right to you, do it. I'm more kind of aiming this at people who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and sort of looking at their life and going, it's too late. That ship has not actually sailed. It is absolutely not too late. This can make your life happier. Come join us, we have cake.